Hi, I'm Matt Gracie, Product Support Manager, Warren Cat Power Systems Division. I'd like to take you through our advanced rebuild and testing facility here in Odessa, Texas. This unique state-of-the-art facility includes a clean, positive pressure rebuild environment, engine dyno test cells capable of testing up to 6,000 horsepower, and transmission testing. All of this backed by CAT certified technicians and years of experience in our industry. This area here is what we tear an engine down at. We've got 4 of these isolation pads. They're metal grates on top of a pit, so when we tear an engine down, the area stays clean because all the oil and dirt and debris falls into these pits. So these engines here will be torn down. Once they get torn down, the metal parts will be put in baskets, which will go to our cleaning station. The block, crankshaft, and other components that we check for wear will go to the machine shop. And from there, they'll make the decision on if it needs to be machined or if it's reusable or what they need to do. So once they go here, they go to the cleaning bay. They'll get cooked, cleaned, and then they come back in here. And this is where we buff the gasket areas and polish everything to make sure it's clean. And from here, it will go into the assembly shop. This is our cleaning area. So once the engine is torn down, all the metal pieces will come over to this area. First, they go into the bake-off oven. That's where they're baked to get all the paint and the dried oil and anything that's on the engine that's not metal will be burned off. Once it goes through that process, we bring it over here and we put it in these 2 cabinet washers, and that's where it's pressure washed and all the residue is off it and leaves a bare metal component, whether it's a block or whatever. And then from here, it goes over to our assembly teardown area where we will finish cleaning the product, buff the gasket areas, and then make it ready for assembly. In this area is where we do all our machining. So once the engine is torn down, the major components that need to be measured and checked will come over to this area. And in this area, we grind the crankshaft, we mill the blocks, we do the connecting rods, straighten the camshafts, and check magnaflux everything to check for cracks. Then once all that's done and it meets CAT's spec, then we'll take it back to the assembly shop. This side of the facility is our assembly shop. This is where, after all the components are checked, cleaned, and ready for assembly, they bring them in here with the parts. And this is where we start our process of reassembling the engine. It's positive pressure, it's climate controlled, so our contamination level is extremely low here, and that adds to the extended life of an engine once it's rebuilt. So once they go through the assembly process here, then that's when we put them on the carts and we take them into the test cells. These test cells are kind of unique. They have closed loop cooling system, which means the engines actually run on glycol, not water. That way we don't have any rust issues when it leaves here or freezing issues. This test cell on this side is a 6,000 horse water brake. It's capable of running up to a 3616 gas engine. We also run our Frac engines on this side. It also has the capability of running a 2,500 horse air-to-air diesel engine, which with the new Tier 4s will be air-to-air. The units are brought in on a rail system. They're backed in and locked into the test pad. That way they're in perfect alignment as far as the drive line and everything, so it cuts out a lot of time. We have a ventilation system in here that moves the air 4 times a minute. That way we simulate ambient air outside. That way it's the same temperature. On the diesel engines, we actually measure fuel consumption, fuel burn. So we actually measure corrective horsepower because in the Odessa region, the altitude, on the high horsepower Frac engines, we actually have a D rate up here. So to make sure the engine's making correct horsepower, we do a correction factor to make sure that at this altitude, this temperature, it's correct horsepower. This test cell, this is our large test cell. It's capable of doing 6,000 horse, which would be up to a 3616. The test cell behind me is our small one for our smaller engines, and it's capable of doing 2,000 horse, which would be the small gas engines and the small diesel engine.
This is a Frac engine. It's a 3512 diesel, and this engine is rated for 2,500 horsepower at about 7,300 torque. And these are the engines that run all the Frac equipment. So there'll be transmissions and pump connected to this on a trailer for whenever they do fracturing. Got our engine started. So we're able to see everything the engine's doing. So we have our RPM gauge, torque gauge, and horsepower gauge, and we're able to monitor everything. We also have the ability to hook up directly to the engine with sensors from Teardown, and be able to display it here on this computer and in this software. On this computer, we have our CAT ET, and this is reading all its data directly from the ECM. It's getting our engine speed, our coolant temperature, oil pressure, any temperature sensor, any pressures that we need, it'll be on ET. It'll be digitally. We also have our engine load factor. Right now we're running 100%. You see, we can have our horsepower. It goes up. Once we got it at high idle, we have a set point here in this software where we could increase load just by a mouse click. And we'll get a dyno run under full load for about an hour. For the majority part of our dyno test, we'll do it at 80% load. And we can see our engine load factor here. Right now we're running 100% engine load. We usually start a dyno test, we'll run it 2 hours, we'll reach full load, and we'll shut it off, and we'll check the valve lash on the engine, make any adjustments if needed, check the injector height, and then once we start her up again after we check valve lash, and then we'll run usually another 2 hours under 80% load, and then we'll bring the engine to full load for the last 10 minutes of the dyno test to make sure we can reach full load again. So
this is our transmission test bay. This is where after we rebuild the TH55s and TH48s, we bring them in here and we do a hydraulic test on them. This test equipment here is capable of spinning the transmission. It also measures the pressures and the flow to each clutch. That way we know that after the rebuild that the transmission is operating at its specifications. This is the only one we have in this area. We have other ones in Oklahoma, but this one here is strictly put in to handle all the frac units that we have in our territory. And it's a very unique piece because we can actually get a printout from the computer and we have actual data that will follow through the next rebuild to see how it performed in the past. If you have any questions about our rebuild options, service capabilities, or CAT certified training opportunities, please give us a call at 866-2-WARN or visit warncat.com. Thank you.